Chapter 18. I was still putting the pieces together, but I thought I had a pretty good idea of how things had happened. As near as I could figure out, Junip's takeover hadn't been planned, but when the kind disposition was destroyed, and Glee-Wixix presumably along with it, Junip had seen it as an opportunity to bolster support for his movement for peace. That I, an unruly primitive, could be blamed for the destruction and death of the Confederation's leader only added to his cause. Glee-Wixix had gone off with the other prisoners, ready to be returned if necessary. She had been held apart from the others, not so she could be interrogated or given more intense security, but so she didn't have to live in the same conditions as the rest of them. In the meantime, the Fads had what they wanted, one of their own in power. It didn't matter to them if it was Junip or Glee-Wixix. I had no idea what Glee-Wixix really intended to do when she returned to Confederation Central. Obviously, Junip was not going to prison. It seemed more likely that the rest of us would be locked away while Junip and Glee-Wixix cooked up another story to feed to the public. I had no doubt Dr. Roop, Captain Quassel, Urch, and Nyana would all disappear. The bad guys getting their way was bad enough. But if we didn't do something, the Fads would stay on Earth. Meanwhile, the lunatic Fadic Renegades would go back to their original plan of destroying Confederation Central. I explained all of this as quickly and clearly as I could. The others all stared at me, maybe shocked by what they were hearing, maybe upset to know that I was a walking polygraph machine.
"So, what do we do, mate?" Steve asked. "Let's say we do steal a ship and get out of here. I admit not being on Confederation Central when it blows up is probably a good idea, but it doesn't exactly feel like a victory."
Plan A for the Fadic Renegades was destroying Confederation Central, I said. Rescuing Glee-Wixix was Plan B, but there was at one point a Plan C. The Renegades wanted to liberate a world held by the Fads. The idea that once the Fads lost their grip on the planet, beings all around the Empire would notice and rise up at the same time. A well-publicized revolution would set off a domino effect. They even had a plan for pulling it off on Earth. They have a stable wormhole leading directly there from their settlement. "Hold on," Misun said. "You're telling me that this group of renegades just happens to have a magic teleporter from their obscure forgotten desert planet to Earth? Either you're lying, or you've been lied to and you were gullible enough to believe it." "Because you know everything?" Tamrat snapped. "The galaxy isn't big and varied enough for you that everything still needs to fit into your idea of what is and isn't likely?" Tamrat would still not meet my eye unless we were discussing strategy. She didn't want to talk to me about anything that wasn't super important, but she still wanted to defend me. I really needed to know what was going on with her, but maybe this wasn't the best time to dwell on it. "There is a lot going on here that feels coincidental," I told Misun. "And I'm not going to pretend to understand it all, but I'm telling you, these Fadic Renegades have a direct portal to Earth. We can use it, and we need to." Misun was worked up now. She was stomping towards me, like she meant to give me a spinning kick to the face. "Why, Zeke? Why does it have to be us? Why are we the only ones who have to do crazy, dangerous things? Isn't there someone else in this entire galaxy who's willing just once to step up so we don't have to?" Her face was inches from mine by the time she stopped, her eyes wide and glistening. I didn't know if the tears she was fighting back were of rage or frustration or fear. I shook my head. "No, Misun, there isn't." I was speaking quietly now, trying to sound reasonable. "Do you think I want to do this?" "Yeah," she snapped. "I do." She didn't know about the powder and the saving throw. She didn't know if I were to do this, I was going to have to take a leap of faith and face a 15% chance of not living to see if our efforts saved the galaxy or not. Worst of all, I couldn't tell her because if I did, she would probably take that risk on herself. Misun wasn't a coward. I knew that she would do what needed doing, but I also knew she was tired of running and scheming and worrying about her family. "I don't want to have to," I said. "I know you all gave me a hard time when we thought our part in this was over, but you have no idea how relieved I was. I don't want to head back into the thick of it, take on another crazy mission, take chances with my friends' lives. I wish there was another way, but if we don't do this, if we don't find some way to shake things up, Confederation Central is going to be destroyed. Millions of innocent beings will be going about their business one second, and just be gone the next. Maybe the Renegades are right, and it will lead to galactic peace, but that price is too high. I will always know that maybe it didn't have to be that way. Do any of you want to spend the rest of your lives wondering what we could have done? Mi-san blinked a couple times, and then stepped back a little. If I understand what you're saying, then the Phatic Renegades blow up the station. We'll probably be on it when it's destroyed. There's that, if you want to take a selfish approach.
I do, Steve said. It's not the only approach I want to take, but it is one of them. Also, for the record, I'm keen on the idea of a crazy, stupid adventure.
Not helping? I said to him. Mi-san shook her head. It doesn't matter. You already made your point. I guess we really do have to do this.
I hadn't thought about the part where we would all be killed along with the millions of beings on the station,
Nyana said.
That changes my outlook considerably.
You should have led with that,
Alice agreed. Mi-san sat back down. We were all quiet now, like something that had been hovering over us had all been blown away. She let out a long sigh. Zeke, I'm sorry. I've been blaming you for what's happened to our families. I know you were only doing what you thought had to be done, and the truth is I didn't have to listen to you. I could have contacted them without your okay. But I didn't because I knew you were right. I just wanted to blame someone.
This is a mistake,
Nyana whispered loudly for us to all hear.
Never acknowledge fault. It puts you at a tactical disadvantage.
I nodded to Mi-san. I know that Mi-san shook her head, though. It's probably best not to say anything. I'm sure whatever it is will just make me angry. Accept the apology and move on. I accept your apology, Mi-san, I said. How very big of you, she grumbled, rolling her eyes.
So,
Alice said brightly.
I wonder if there's anyone else mad at Zeke for no apparent reason who wants to clear the air?
Tamret glowered at her, who tried to vanish into her chair.
Right then,
Steve said, clearly out to break the tension.
So, the plan to liberate your planet. Let's go back to that bit.
Nyana folded her arms.
We should think this through. I'm sure the basics of Zeke's plan are more or less coherent, but the devil is always in the details. I understand that liberating Earth will make the Fads look bad and perhaps reflect poorly on Junip, but that hardly ends the collaboration. Any kind of rebellion we initiate will take months, maybe years to run its course. In the meantime, there's nothing to stop the Fads from reoccupying Earth, no doubt more harshly.
As someone who also comes from a country that was once held as a colony, Charles said, I share Nyana's concerns. Rebellions are often dealt with brutally, and they can take generations to succeed.
We need to get Captain Quassel and Dr. Roop on board, I said. I have to convince them that I'm right, and then get them to expose Junip and Glee-Wixix. If we can take control of Earth, we'll be able to gain access to Phatic computers and records. That should provide us all the evidence we need to link Junip to the Fads. Your plans keep getting stupider, Mi-san said. Last time you wanted to go into an empire and free maximum security prisoners. And that plan worked, I said, trying to muster more enthusiasm than I felt. I mean, it would have if Glee-Wixix would have been what we all thought she was. It's not my fault she's a traitor.
I agree with that,
Alice said.
But just because your last crazy plan made sense doesn't mean all your crazy plans will.
I'm as keen on a crazy plan as the next bloke,
Steve said.
But everything we've done before hinged on a small, stealthy operation. You're talking about war here, Zeke. A long, bloody conflict without a clear path to victory. A lot of beings on your planet will get killed. Is that really what you want?
I slumped down in my chair and put my head in my hands. Of course I didn't want that. And I had to concede that when Steve thought a plan was too insane, it was time to take stock. The real question was if there was some way I could, with all my augmented powers, single-handedly make a difference. I did not want an actual war. On the other hand, if I did nothing, then Confederation Central was going to be destroyed. Maybe Earth would be freed of the fads and the Empire would lose its grip on the galaxy, but that was too high a price to pay. I thought about what I knew about the Phatic operation, and I began to see that there might be a way of pulling this off without an actual bloody war. Look, I know guerrilla action against an occupying army sounds like a lot to take on, but the fads are using this high-end technology that requires a quantum-level energy link to their empire. If we cut it off, they run out of power to fuel their ships. They'll have to retreat or risk getting stuck on Earth forever.
Their weapons will still work, Charles said. What is to stop them from hurting a lot of people and doing a lot of damage before they go?
They have our families, in case you've forgotten, Misan said. I know I haven't. I haven't forgotten, I said. Not for a second.
If we launch some sort of attack, don't you think they'll take it out on the people we care about? That's the whole point of having hostages. How do you plan to protect them?
I have no idea, I said mournfully. I was hoping that the Renegades would have a suggestion, but I knew it was a long shot. Sparing innocent lives didn't seem to be their particular strength.
I do, Tamrat said. I know exactly how you do this. How many fads do you think are on Earth?
I don't have an exact number, I said. The Phatic rebels told me it was no more than a few thousand.
So, there are at least 1 million humans for each invader, she said, grinning. The fads dominate because they have the technology. The trick is to take that away from them, and you make the numbers matter. Clearly you weren't listening, Nyana said. They will still have their weapons.
Alice looked up, getting it.
Not if they don't.
Tamrat nodded.
Exactly. If these renegades are as handy as you say they are, they can help us out with a planetary EMP. We'll do it to the fads what Ardov did to us, only on a bigger scale. We'll shut them down, and we'll keep them shut down until they agree to leave peacefully. Without their guns, they're no match for a few billion humans with big sticks.
Nyana nodded, stroking her chin to show she was giving this a lot of thought.
That is very clever, she said dubiously. I have no doubt that I would have thought of it myself had I been there for Ardov's attack. High praise, Tamrat said. You are very welcome.
Perhaps, Valonic suggested, I should stay behind. If you like, I could serve as a special ambassador to Director Gliwixix.
And tell her exactly what we don't want her to know, I thought. There was no way we could risk leaving Valonic behind. Besides, as strange as it was, the Phatic renegades seemed to like him. Having him along might actually help. No way, Valonic, I said. We're adventure buddies. You're coming with me.
This could actually work, Steve said. Except, what's to keep the fads from coming back as soon as things settle down?
The idea is that there will be uprisings all over the Empire, I said. But we can't guarantee that. Things could go perfectly, but we'll only be back to where we started in a matter of days or weeks.
We'll need to get the word out then,
Alice said.
In the Confederation. Dr. Roop and Captain Quassel will have to let everyone know that Junip and Gliwixix were allies, and that they are both working for the fads.
How does that work? Tamrat asked. They're not exactly going to let the good guys hold a press conference. Gliwixix will act like everything is normal until they approach Confederation Central, and then they'll strike before any word can get out. But we know that, Nyana said. We know their next move, and they don't know that we know it. That gives us the advantage, not them. If we're going to escape from the ship, we'll first have to drop out of tunnel, yes?
I nodded.
Then Dr. Roop and Captain Quassel can secretly launch comm beacons to various news outputs on Confederation Central. They can make sure the truth gets to the station before they do. Perhaps not everyone will believe what they have to say, but they are respected, and their charges will have to be investigated. That gives us time to get the proof that we need from the Phatic computers we capture.
All right, I said. So, here's the rundown of the operation. Escape from this ship with a stolen long-range shuttle. Convince the Phatic renegades to help us by giving us all their intelligence plus a lot of dangerous technology, then have them open a wormhole to get us to Earth, where we'll drive off the most ruthless conquering force in the galaxy. At that point, we have to hope for more revolutions to spring up elsewhere, which will slow any Phatic response to our uprising. Meanwhile, we raid the Fatic computers for proof that Junip and Gliwixix are working with the bad guys. Any questions?
Just one,
Said Charles.
how do we drop out of tunnel long enough to launch these beacons and steal a shuttle?
Steve flashed one of his open-mouthed, spike-toothed grins.
I'm thinking sabotage.